Evening.
Why has John McDonnell done this?
Well, that's a question I think John McDonnell has to answer himself. He's come across the border to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival to do two in conversation with events at the Fringe Festival in the last 2 days and come up with a new policy on one of the biggest constitutional issues that the country ever faces. So I'm not quite sure why he's come up with that new policy. It's quite clear that the policy of the UK and Scottish Labour Party is no to a second independence referendum. That has been clear and been reiterated by Richard Leonard, the Scottish leader, time and time again, both today and in the months leading up to today.
But John McDonnell doesn't seem to have any care for that. I ask you the question why, because it seems patently obvious to anyone who's trying to get into government that they can't rely on Scottish Labour MPs. There's 7 of you. The European election, Scottish Labour only got 9% of the vote. You can't rely on you guys, can he, to get into Westminster, to get him into government, but it can on the SNP.
Well, let's be quite clear about this, because this is about parliamentary mathematics, and Tommy Shepherd at the end of your clip there talked about doing deals, but never tells us what the deals are. So let's be quite clear about this. If there was a minority Labour administration as the largest party, but not with a majority after the next general election, are the SNP really going to vote with the Conservatives like they did in 1979 to bring down a Labour government? Or is there an anti-Conservative majority in the House of Commons that would allow a minority Labour government to govern, get a Queen's speech through and a budget through without the SNP? Of course there is. The SNP will not bring down a Labour government, and therefore you don't need to do a deal. But it's quite clearly parliamentary mathematics.
But he obviously wants to bet the House towards the SNP. That's why he's done this. He's now actually said it twice. It wasn't off the hoof. He also confirmed that Jeremy Corbyn is of the same view. He's written you guys off in Scotland and Scottish Labour.
Well, he's getting the analysis completely wrong then. As your clip already showed, in 2015, the threat in England of the SNP anywhere near Downing Street cost Labour many seats right across England because people were fearful of that nationalist element from Scotland.
This is your party.
And indeed, John McDonnell has said today, again, about not having any deals with the SNP, but if they are going down this route, they've got the mathematics wrong, because they do not need the SNP to support any kind of minority Labour administration after the next general election, because the SNP, in not supporting it, would have to bring down a Labour government and install another Conservative government. Tommy Shepherd said that's not what he would want.
You're playing an old game of poker here, aren't you? Everything's changed because not only of the referendum, but in terms of the Brexit referendum, but also because of Boris Johnson now and the view of him in Scotland, and also what's happened with the likelihood of no deal. John McDonnell's just outplayed you at a game of poker, and you've been left behind looking completely out of the picture.
Well, I think he's improvised at the Edinburgh Festival, and he might win the Perrier Award for improvisation at this particular festival.
Calculated. He re-said it today.
You heard from Ruth Davidson there in the piece as well, when she said that Labour have gone weak on the union. Well, that's not the case, because it is still our party policy and remains to be our party policy of having no to a second independence referendum. The reason we're in this particular discussion is because of Brexit.
He's opened the door to it.
But why would he even open that door? Opening that door is unnecessary.
You're in his party. This isn't a good look, is it, to the electorate? In all seriousness, people who support Labour don't want to see a Labour Party at war like this, and this is what's happening.
Well, John McDonnell's on his own here, because all the MSPs, parliamentary candidates for the Labour Party, have written a letter tonight. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party, myself and my MP colleagues have all come together tonight to say that John McDonnell is completely wrong, and he has to come out, clarify what he said, and say that the policy that is in a 2017 manifesto is still clear, that we're against the second. Well,
what are you going to do?
The policy of the Labour Party, as we sit here tonight on this television programme, is no to a second independence referendum. Now, if John McDonnell wants to change that policy, and Jeremy Corbyn wants to change that policy, they have to go through the proper channels to do so. And I have to say they'll get short shrift from Scottish Labour Party members if they try and change that policy. We have to learn the lessons of the 2014 referendum and the 2015 general election. We learnt them in 16, we learnt them in 17. If John McDonnell is rowing back on that now, perhaps I'll send him a calculator so he can look at the parliamentary mathematics and see that no deals with any other party are required to be done to support a minority Labour administration.
Well, maybe that's your next move, not just a letter, a calculator. Ian Murray, thank you. India and Pakistan.